Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special weekend edition of the Vorpal Board stream. I am joined tonight by Seth Cooper and Brandt Hoffman from Blueprint Gaming Concepts, and they are bringing their upcoming game, H.H. Holmes' Murder Castle, spooky, to the stream tonight. Seth, Brandt, thanks for joining me.
Thanks
you
for having us.
Yeah, no problem. So this is a game that is coming to Kickstarter in 10 days, 9 days, something like that, depending on where you live, maybe. It's coming on January 13th. And it is 2 to 6 players out of the box. And it's a versus game, so we're all going to be trying to survive the infamous H.H. Holmes Murder Castle from Chicago. If you are unfamiliar with H.H. Holmes, he's one of history's greatest monsters, murdered a whole lot of people in a very spooky and disgusting custom-built torture hotel, I guess. And this game, for whatever reason, chose to investigate that. So, guys, what inspired you to choose? And I'm giving you grief here, but I actually really like this subject matter. But what inspired you to make a game about H.H. Holmes?
So I think one for, we both live in Chicago and we were inspired by A Devil in the White City.
Yeah.
And one night we were playing a couple games and just really thought that there wasn't a game that really hit on the Murder Castle subject, and it sort of writes itself. So we just wanted to really follow the history within this game.
And it's interesting because you guys, this is a subtitle. The game is actually titled, it's not just H.H. Holmes' Murder Castle. It's actually Crimes in History, H.H. Holmes' Murder Castle. Do you kind of have a vision of wanting to build more games kind of in your own little universe of crime-related titles? Is that something that you're hoping to do?
I think we set ourselves up to be able to do that. We'll see how this goes.
Hey, that's fine. It's totally fine to be super optimistic. I love it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I am, I guess, a connoisseur. I guess it's creepy to call oneself a connoisseur of kind of serial killer history and stuff like that. And H.H. Holmes, I feel like, you mentioned The Devil in the White City. H.H. Holmes is like a very kind of uniquely early 1900s killer. He was taking advantage of life insurance schemes and killing people and collecting their life insurance. And in back then, right, like it was very hard to actually keep track of people because, you could just say whoever you wanted to be. And he was taking out life insurance policies and murdering these people. Did you consider trying to make this game a very dry life insurance scam simulator?
It's one of the few things we didn't try.
Yeah.
Just a lot of filling out forms and presenting yourself as a different person.
Carbon paper.
Right.
Monopoly has it covered.
All right, so the Kickstarter launches in 10 days. I believe this is your guys' first Kickstarter. Is that correct?
Correct.
So is the energy level kind of at like a manic place currently? How are you feeling?
Like a thermometer that's already bursted off the top.
Yeah, did we pass that a couple days ago?
And then I think you guys did a lot of, just from sort of following you on social media, you guys have taken this game to some conventions in the past. I think you've done like a lot of local and maybe even blind play testing with it. The prototype that we're going to play with today, kudos, because it's really far along. The art is really solid. As far as prototypes go, it's got double layer boards and everything. I mean, you guys seem to be very far along in the development process. So I guess talk a little bit about that, like the convention scene and just sort of taking this creation out into the wild and how that experience was for you.
You want to start?
I guess it kind of started from finding places that would, one, take us as new game designers, finding crowds that had an interest in that, and then the first time we went, I think the first one was Harrisburg. It was a pleasant surprise. I mean, we got a lot more turnout than we anticipated. We had people telling us they drove from, quite a ways away to play. So it was kind of refreshing to know that people have been following what we've been doing.
It's
Yeah,
cool.
we attended Save Against Fear in Harrisburg.
Yep.
And that's cool because it seems like kind of in the zeitgeist currently, true crime, creepy murder stuff. That is definitely in the culture currently, right? There's tons and tons of podcasts that cover those types of things. There's miniseries on all sorts of streaming networks about this sort of subject. So did you feel like it was kind of like the strike while the iron's hot type situation with like focusing on true crime, or is that something that really is not only just an opportunity to make a cool game, but something that you're like really passionate about in the rest of your life?
Yeah, so funny enough, when we were starting to put together a bunch of different board game ideas and this started developing, we were thinking we just need a theme. We have an idea. So we kind of went to, other games, and we, reading Devil in the White City, it kind of all came together. And I'll never forget the next day, there was an announcement of like Hulu, with the coming series, and it being changed from a movie to a series. And we said, this has got to be a sign. Let's run forward.
Yeah, isn't it Leonardo DiCaprio playing H.H. Holmes too?
So they haven't announced it yet. Him and Martin Scorsese had rights to it, and I think it's rumored, which are going to stay involved at this point. But I know that Leonardo's had the rights to it for a very long time.
Cool.
So I suspect that he'll be a part of it if it does get made.
Yeah, I think he could probably channel the creepiness pretty well and rock like a voluminous mustache that would be necessary for the role. You mentioned rights. I was talking to my wife when we were playing this game, and I kind of wondered aloud, like, is there an H.H. Holmes, like the family of H.H. Holmes that you would have to get like rights to make a game? Like, is that even a consideration?
So so great question. So it's public domain. So we were excited to pursue it based off our review of that. And then funny enough, we actually someone had shared one of our posts to Jeff Mudgett, which is a descending relative of H.H. Holmes. And so he does actual speaking engagements, and he replied back cool. We messaged him, he didn't reply. He's doing too many speeches, but it was pretty cool that it actually got wind and got to him.
So
and no cease and desist.
Yeah, but I guess, what does a descendant of H.H. Holmes? What kind of business do they have doing like speaking engagements? Not to necessarily like badmouth anybody, but like
How-to video.
So he had like from my understanding, he had like ownership to be as a descending relative to actually dig up the grave of H.H. Holmes.
Wow. Okay.
And so there was theories if it was really him inside, and at least the blood did match. But he took a different spin, pinpointing Holmes to like Jack the Ripper, since H.H. Holmes was an American student of the medical profession. So. It kind of places him there, and he wrote a book, and he was doing some of those types of speeching
Interesting. Okay.
events talking about the book.
Yeah, that I don't know, that would be a daunting kind of feeling, I think, to have, to know that somebody that you were a couple, I guess 3 or 4 generations removed from was somebody who was like really evil. I think just reviewing kind of like his behavior, man, that would be pretty awful to think about, I suppose. But yeah, that is kind of funny, because on the back of the box, it said there was like a legal work, and there was a credit for legal work, and I was thinking, man, did somebody have to negotiate with H.H. Holmes's living relatives? But yeah, that's good to hear that it's public domain. All right, so let's talk nuts and bolts a little bit about build up to the Kickstarter. So I think folks who watch this stream oftentimes are interested in what people's like framework looks like for running a Kickstarter, because I've talked a lot about how ours went, and tried to be a little bit transparent with kind of where we thought we failed. But like, what's that been like for you? Is it trying to build your own audience in the true crime world, or kind of how have you looked at tackling this idea of kind of making yourself known in such a big sea of board games on Kickstarter as a platform?
Yeah, so I think, it is about kind of getting to your market. And I think what's unique, and I guess where we're probably a little fortunate with this theme, is that there are so many passionate people in the community that like murder and this serial killer and true crime type stuff. But there's plenty of people that love, board game and tabletop gamings. And so I think by blending that, it doubles our, potential markets that may not kind of cross pollinate, but at the same time, that makes it harder for us to do that outreach. So that's some of the challenges that we've been working through in the last year, and why we've, hosted play testing sessions, and why we're looking to do stuff like this. And, thanks again to the opportunity here. The technology is awesome, and can't wait to show our fans this.
Oh yeah, no problem. I thank you for sending me a prototype and coming on to help me generate content. But no, I think your guys' game is a good opportunity where every game we play on here stresses the system in different ways. So when you try to build like a generalized system, obviously it's kind of difficult. Your guys' game works very well for certain things. There are other things that are a little bit fiddly. Folks who are watching will see just sort of like management of lots and lots of cubes is something we're still working on. And so kind of the tactile nature of being able to handle a lot of little tiny bits is a big part of board games. And so being able to handle that smoothly inside our system is important to us. But generally speaking, I think it's going to play really well. Okay, so if people want to follow you, if people want to be notified of the campaign, you guys do have a preview page out there. I'm going to drop it into chat currently. And these are, on Kickstarter, it's a little bit weird, so you can't search and find these pages, right? You can only find them via the link. So there's the link, everybody.
Invitation only.
Yeah, we recently learned of that.
Yeah, so that's always tough. I mean, one of the things of being a Kickstarter creator that seems like one of the worst things, I guess, is like always kind of navigating the access that's given to you in the tools. Can you get access to the emails of all the people that are signing up for things? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Can they find your thing when they search for it? Again, sometimes yes, sometimes no. So yeah, it seems like it's always kind of a little bit of a surprise.
Yeah.
So anyway, the link is in there. If you're curious to get notified when the campaign goes live, like immediately when it goes live, you can go and click a little notify me on launch link, or a button on that page. You can also find that link if you're just watching this video, say on YouTube. You can find that link in the social media for Blueprint Gaming Concepts. So you can see they have it linked throughout their social media, so you can find them on Twitter or on Facebook and find their stuff there. And then we'll have it also in the description of the video, so you can look down there and you can find it. But obviously, yeah, whichever way it is on YouTube, it might be that way, like, and if you're full screen, you might have to close it and find somewhere else. But no, I wish you all the best. I think it's kind of funny. The other thing I was talking to my wife about, I'm kind of like a murder guy. I hate saying that, but like I listen to a lot of like podcasts and true crime stuff, and I enjoy it. And I was talking to her, and I was like, it's actually, and maybe you guys have had this same thought, it's actually really surprising that this subject, I feel like, hasn't been board gamed before. Because the idea of walking around the murder castle and kind of like every single time the tiles are different, it kind of has a little bit of like House on Haunted Hill. Is that the name? Is it?
Yes.
Yeah. House on Haunted Hill, kind of like every time you play it, it's a different kind of layout. The idea of a Holmes being controlled by the game, kind of, and moving throughout the mansion, and everybody kind of avoiding Holmes. Like, it does seem like it fits really well. So I guess congratulations on being the first ones to decide to make it, but also take on the legal ramifications potentially of the Holmes family someday.
We have nothing, so they can't get it.
Yeah. After the big Kickstarter, somebody's going to become lawyers are going to be banging your door down. Okay, cool. So I think we're going to jump into the game.